back in the day, not even that long ago, to build a website, you would need to either have the knowledge of coding or to hire a professional that has the knowledge of coding in order to build a responsive website for your brand, for your clothing brand. Things have definitely changed, and there are so many platforms out there that allow you to build your website yourself with absolutely no knowledge of coding whatsoever. Shopify is a big example of this. I use Shopify for my website, and they were actually founded in 2006, guys, which I feel like wasn't even that long ago. Now, I say all of this to say, what is truly the better option? Using a web developer to create your website from scratch, or using a platform such as Shopify to create your website yourself? Hi everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Teddy G, and on this channel I like to dive into what it's truly like to run and own a clothing brand, as well as dropping tips, tricks, gems, and all of that good stuff. And recently I launched my starter kit, which is an extensive guide aimed at helping you start your clothing brand. So I will have that linked in the description and in my pinned comment. So in this video, I am going to dive into some of the pros, some of the cons of using either a web developer or a platform such as Shopify to create your website. The reason why I felt like this video was important to make was that people take a look at my website, yeah, and they're like, oh my gosh, did you hire somebody to create this website for you? And I thought to myself, I actually genuinely thought that was like a thing of the past, but there are definitely still people out there that would much rather have a website coded for them. So it prompted me to create this video and actually dive into what actually is the better option. So when I speak of web developer, I am talking hiring an expert that's gonna code your website from scratch, and that website will be yours. That website will belong to you. So let's talk about some of the pros and the cons of going down this route. So the pros. Obviously, one of the biggest pros is the customization aspect of it all. When you're working with a developer that's creating this website from scratch, the capabilities are almost endless. You can tell them exactly how you want your website to be. There's no restriction. Of course, there's restriction in terms of, you know, what the web developer is capable of, but as a whole, typically there's no restrictions when it comes to the customization of your website. So if you decide, you know, you want a website that's a circle, you can have a website that's a circle. The website that this web developer creates for you is going to be unique, and the functionality of that website is going to be tailored to your needs. Pro number 2 is that you're never really going to be alone. You are always going to have, well, depending on your contract, you're always going to have ongoing support from this web developer. So if there are things that you need changed, adapted, you are always going to have this web developer there on hand to change and adapt this website, and there's always going to be ongoing maintenance. It's going to be a professional website made by an expert. And that actually brings me on to pro number 3. You are working with an expert at the end of the day. So things like SEO optimization, they are going to be able to ensure that your website is completely optimized for SEO, because at the end of the day, that's their job. They are the expert. They are probably going to be able to suggest different things that you might not have thought about for your website, and make sure that your website actually looks really good, because at the end of the day, it's their job and you're working with an expert. And that actually brings me on to pro number 4. Because you're working with an expert, and because it's your website that's being built from scratch, they are going to be able to integrate advanced features, technologies, and solutions to your website that maybe Shopify or a web developing website won't be able to as of yet. I feel like platforms such as Wix, such as Shopify, are probably always going to just be a little bit behind when it comes to new technologies. So say if, for example, 3D mockup or something, I know this is already out there, but just for example, 3D mockup is, you know, something that's just, you know, come about, or like AI integration or whatever. You can say to your web developer, I want this on my website. And as a web developer, they should be keeping up with these technologies. Whereas if you're working with a platform such as Wix, Shopify, Squarespace, it's probably going to take them a while to then integrate those new technologies to their platform for you to then use. They're probably going to have to go through beta testing, and they are probably always going to be slightly behind when it comes to some of those new technologies. So those are my pros. Let's dive into some of the cons. Now, one of the biggest cons, of course, when we're comparing using a web developer to using Shopify, the cost. The cost is going to be so much higher. We're talking thousands, okay? To develop a website from scratch, we are talking about thousands. So it's definitely a high investment. So that is something that you definitely have to think about when it comes to having a web developer create your website from scratch. Number two, and it ties into one of the pros, but it's that dependence on the developer for any updates or changes that you need for your website. So say if you decide, okay, there's something on my website that I don't quite like and I want to change it, you're always going to have to go back to your developer, tell them what it is that you want changed and get them to change it, instead of being able to just go in there yourself and change it yourself. So you're always going to be dependent on the web developer that's created this website for you. Number three is miscommunication. Obviously, you're going to have to communicate to the web developer exactly how you want your website to be made. With all communication, there can also be miscommunication. And because of miscommunication, and because you're supposed to be communicating what it is you want, it ties into the fact that you're going to have limited control over the design process. There's only so much you can explain. At the end of the day, it's down to the web developer to actually translate what it is that you're communicating to the website. And of course, if you work with a web developer that has their own style, you might end up being quite limited in terms of control over this design process. You just literally have to sit there and wait for the web developer to present to you this website. And the final con that I have is the fact that after all of that, after they've created this website, you are going to have to go through probably extensive learning process as to how to use the website that they have built for you. And depending on your web developer, it could be quite complicated. It could be, not as user friendly as some of the other platforms that, we're going to cover. Okay, we're going to cover one, Shopify. But, the user interface may not be as straightforward as you would want it to be. So let's talk about Shopify. So Shopify is an e-commerce platform that allows you to create and manage an online store. You don't need to have any previous knowledge of coding, and Shopify is actually used by a lot of different brands, including my brand. Gymshark uses it, Kylie uses it, as in Kylie Jenner, and that's just to name a few. So let's dive into some of the pros of using Shopify. So the ease of use. Shopify is definitely very user-friendly, and that's on both ends. So from building the website itself, extremely user-friendly, to operating your business from the back end of Shopify. Pro number two, it's quite quick to set up. So I built my Shopify website from scratch within about 2 weeks, and in my starter kit, I basically pretty much built a Shopify website within 1 to 2 hours. Of course, it didn't have absolutely everything, but I built a pretty basic website to show people how to build a website on Shopify. I built that literally within 2 hours of filming that video. So it's definitely quick to set up, setting up your payment systems, your blogs, your different pages. Very, very quick to set up. You just need a little bit of time and a little bit of patience to just sit there and do it. Pro number three, which I feel like is a massive pro, is the fact that Shopify is very mobile responsive, very mobile friendly. So when you're building your Shopify store, it automatically builds the mobile version of the store as well, which is incredibly responsive. There's not much that you need to change around, and we know that a lot of the time we are doing our shopping on our mobile phones. So having a website that is mobile friendly is really, really important. And the final pro that I'm going to touch on when it comes to Shopify is the payment gateway integration. So you can integrate great. So many different forms of payment, and it's very simplified. So you can have PayPal, you can have Stripe, you can have Shopify payments, you can have Amazon Pay, all integrated on the Shopify website. You can accept MasterCard, Amex. Like, having all of those payment options is definitely going to be a major key when it comes to running your brand and having a functioning website. So of course, with pros comes cons, and one of the big cons of using Shopify are their transactional fees. So whenever somebody pays for something on the platform, you are going to be charged a transaction percentage. So it could be something like 2%, 2.5%, whatever it may be. Somebody pays £100 for a tracksuit, for example, you are not going to receive that full £100, especially now if you're using some of the external payment systems such as PayPal, for example. It might have a transaction fee on top of the PayPal transaction fee. So those are some of the things that you need to consider when using platforms such as Shopify. It doesn't even have to just be Shopify. It could be Wix, could be Squarespace, could be Big Cartel. There's so many platforms out there and they all have transaction fees. So that's definitely something to consider. In terms of customizations, you are limited because at the end of the day, you are using templates that they already have on the platform. You can't just decide, okay, I want this to be there because I want that to be there. You can't draw a picture and be like, this is exactly how I want it, because you are going to be limited to what the interface can actually produce. And this can be quite frustrating when it comes to building a website and creating a website that looks exactly how you want it to look. Con number 3 is app dependency, especially with Shopify. On some of the themes, you might need to have additional apps so that you can actually have a website that looks how you want it to look. So for example, on some of the free themes, you're not able to have one of those like pop-up banner things that, you know, offer you a discount or something. So you would have to like download like a third-party app in the Shopify app store, and that can be pretty annoying, especially if you're someone like me. I like everything in one. So if Shopify, you know, provided like a pop-up, some of the pay themes do, but if Shopify provided like a pop-up, you know, I would prefer that. A lot of the times, to get your website to look exactly how you want it to look, you are gonna have to download various different third-party apps, and some of them have costs associated with them, which, you know, racks up your costs. Which brings me on to the final con, which is that Shopify operates on a subscription model, which means that every month you have to pay to use Shopify. And the basic plan is around about £25 a month, which you are gonna have to pay every month to keep using Shopify. As you grow and you decide to, you know, upgrade your subscription level, that cost is gonna go up. The more apps you have, if they are paid apps, they are probably gonna have a subscription as well. And if you're somebody like me, I hate having direct debits coming out of my account. I mean, I don't think anyone does, to be honest. Knowing that you're always gonna have to be paying that £25 a month can be pretty annoying. So that covers both using a web developer and using Shopify, but there is kind of like a steady medium kind of, and it's almost like the best of both worlds, but it is on Shopify. And that's when you actually hire a Shopify expert to code different elements of your website to actually get it to look exactly how you want it to look. So you'll kind of have the best of both worlds almost. You will have a fully-ish customized store, right, that's been coded by a web developer. Like, different elements have been coded for it to look how you want it to look, but then you will still have the ease of use and interface of Shopify, because at the end of the day, this Shopify expert, which is essentially a web developer, will be adding these customizations to your Shopify store. And that's what I've done for Shiva. There are certain elements that I have had coded so that my website can look exactly how I want it to look. So that is, you know, a little bit of the best of both worlds, which I feel like is probably the best way to go. So guys, I really hope that this video has been helpful for you guys. As mentioned, I do have my starter kit, which is already live. I will have that linked in the description. I will also have linked Shopify in the description as well. I think right now they have an offer where you can sign up to Shopify and it's £1 a month for 3 months. So definitely check it out and try it out. In terms terms of this video, I am done. Please don't forget to like, comment, and if you're finding this video randomly, please subscribe. I upload twice weekly, Wednesdays and Sundays, 5 p.m. UK time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in my very next video.